Ali Dawa, he's our man. He leads the Muslims to Christ. It's because he loves the Taliban and says death for apostates is nice. He's a double agent for light and truth. He makes conversions go through the roof. It's This Week in Jihad, ladies and gentlemen. That one you can file in your collection of the This Week in Jihad poems next to the famed Muhammad Hijab series. And we have with us the great David Wood tonight. How are you, David?
Good. Just sending out the link to everybody. We are live for This Week in Jihad.
We have never been liver. We are so live.
Born to be alive.
Yes. It's a glorious time to be alive, David. And there are multiple reasons for that. Let's see if we can find one today in the Jihad news itself. How about right here in the United States, in the good old USA, where it can't happen here, we have here today breaking news. We got actually breaking news in This Week in Jihad. Right now, it's happening. This is a developing story, ladies and gentlemen. Very exciting. A 19-year-old man from Michigan, of all places, and there he is. Let me get his name here. His name is Ammar Abdul-Majid Mohammed Saeed. Ammar Abdul-Majid Mohammed Saeed. Ammar... I can't do it from memory. Ammar Abdul-Majid Mohammed Saeed. I wonder if he had any trouble remembering all that. But in any case, he is a 19-year-old man from Melvindale, Michigan. And he is a former member of the Michigan Army National Guard. And it turns out now that he is a member of also the Islamic State. And that he was plotting a mass murder attack at a military base in Warren, Michigan.
Well, that'd be a first.
Well,
a jihad attack on a military base? Never happened.
Yeah, we haven't had that one since Fort Hood, if I recall correctly. Or was Chattanooga after Fort Hood? People don't remember.
Can't remember. I can't even. Yeah, people, in case anyone doesn't know, I was joking. There have been multiple attacks on military installations.
Indeed. We have Fort Hood, where in 2009, a Muslim army major at the time, what the heck was his name, David? Man, memory is getting bad. But anyway.
Talk about the Fort Hood massacre? I'll look it up.
Yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. As soon as you say it, I'll say, of course. And then there was Muhammad Abdullah in Chattanooga. Oh, Abdul Malik Hassan. Abdul Malik Hassan was Fort Hood. And Muhammad Abdullah was Chattanooga. He killed 4 people. Hassan, 13 people.
Nidal Hassan.
Nidal Hassan. Yikes.
Yeah, you gotta keep, it's too many to keep track of, Robert.
Okay. Nidal,
but it's
Malik
always,
Hassan.
But no matter how many people are killed, it's always a small price to pay for our diversity, which is our strength.
Yes, that's right. It's a good thing that Michigan is not full of a bunch of guys building Ford cars anymore. Instead, it is filled with jihadis. And that is a considerable step up if you've ever driven a Ford. And so, onward and upward. Diversity is our strength. And people have missed the poem. Should I redo the poem? What do you think, David? Was it good enough to repeat?
Yeah, didn't people already suggest that we should chat for the first minute or so?
Yeah, I forget these things. After all, it's supposed to be a cold open, as they say, as we say in the business.
It is supposed
to.
Yeah, you can always say no. You can always say no. Live with it.
Yeah,
too bad.
I could. Okay.
Make sure you pay attention on time next time if you want the poem. Otherwise, check it out after we're done.
The only thing that makes me hesitate about that is the possibility of technological shenanigans. You're doing it again. Every time I move up, you move higher. Now
that's just me like stretching, because over time I slouch down more and more, and then it hurts my back, so I straighten up and then I get higher.
Okay.
Hang on. I can fix it. I got the solution right here. Hang on. Ready?
Yes. Yes.
Oops, wrong way. How about now? Ha ha!
You're getting into strike the next territory here. All right, yeah. The only thing that makes me hesitate is that if there's some technological reason, like the people say it didn't start until after or something like that, that's what makes me
That's
hesitate.
true. That's true. That does happen just randomly. Just randomly. It says you're
Yeah.
live, and it's actually there's a 5 or 6 second delay before it actually makes you live.
All right, let's do it one more time because I liked this one. Ali Dawa, he's our man. He leads the Muslims to Christ. It's because he loves the Taliban and says death for apostates is nice. He's a double agent for light and truth. He makes conversions go through the roof. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is today's literary masterpiece. Literature has declined in the West in the 21st century, and I'm just glad to be able to be in the line of Shakespeare and T.S. Eliot and all the gang. You know, it's a great honor for me. In any case, David, we got Jihad. We got more Jihad than just Michigan. Since we're talking about the United States, since we're talking about the good old USA, let's talk about another American. We have seen this chap before. That is Mohammed Chipa. And Mohammed Azharuddin Chipa. That is, I'm not saying cheaper. It's Chhipa. Chipa.
Yeah, it's because he makes a noise that goes cheep, 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 cheep.
Yeah, so he's a Chipa. And he got 30 years in prison, 30 years of prison dawa in Alexandria, Virginia, for efforts to collect money for the Islamic State. And so we got Ammar, I never remember that guy's name. Ammar Abdulmajid Muhammad Saeed. Ammar Abdulmajid Muhammad Saeed. It actually has a certain kind of rhythm to it. I think the other report I was looking at had another name in there. Right? Wasn't it? Nope. Ammar Abdulmajid Muhammad Saeed. 4 names. It's a lot of names.
Never have
for
too many
one
names.
guy. So Mohammed Chipa, he was providing the dough, and Ammar Abdulmajid Muhammad Saeed was going to actually blow stuff up and kill people. But Chipa was just soliciting donations for the Islamic State through social media in Northern Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia. I used to live there, David. I wonder if I ever ran into this guy. Passed by him on the street. I don't know. In any case, Mohammed Chipa will be concentrating on prison dawa for quite a while. And what I wanted to ask you actually about the other guy, Ammar Abdulmajid. I don't know why this trips me up here tonight. Ammar Abdulmajid Muhammad Saeed. He joined the Michigan Army National Guard. He must have been a great patriot. Am I right?
Well, you have a couple of possibilities. You can have someone who joins the military, right? So they join the National Guard or something like that. And then they find out over time. In other words, other Muslims call them out. You're part of the U.S. military, buddy. You are in all kinds of trouble with Allah. So let us tell you what you need to do to make this right. So it's possible that someone could join with good intentions and then be educated by other Muslims that, hey, you are on the side of the U.S. military, which is making mischief in Muslim lands, and therefore you are condemned by Allah. So that's a possibility. Or it's just you've got people who are long-term thinking and, hey, I want to do jihad. What better way to prepare than by joining the U.S. military? They can train me in how to use these weapons and so on. And then I can use the skills for my future attacks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. You never know. We really we'll seriously never know which one it was because, of course, Western authorities, American authorities, will never get into this. They probably won't ever try to find out themselves what was going on because to do so would be Islamophobic.
Yeah, the only way you actually find out is if like a dude converts at some point and then tells you, here's exactly what was going on in my head.
Mm-hmm. Very rare, very rare. Who was that guy? Musa Sarantonio. I remember his name. He was another. He was a convert, became a jihadi, and then he left and he started spilling the beans on the inner workings of the jihad. I really wish I knew where to contact him. It'd be great to talk to him on the show, but
Yeah,
If you,
funny because I think he's out already. It would be interesting to talk to him.
yeah.
Super intelligent guy. He's one of those guys that like masters languages almost instantly and so on.
Mm.
And that's what actually that ability made him popular in Islam because he could just like pick up Arabic really quickly and then he's speaking perfect Arabic and so on. But it was also what led him out of Islam because he thought, hey, let me go ahead and learn Aramaic. Learn Aramaic. Then he was reading
Whoops.
an Aramaic. He's reading the Aramaic version of the Alexander romance, these legends about Alexander the Great. And he's like, whoa, this sounds like exactly what the Quran is quoting. And then he called the Quran 7th century Alexander the Great fan fiction, left Islam. So it was his the ability that made him famous as a da'i made him leave Islam.
That's actually one of the most interesting and imaginative reasons anybody's ever had to leave Islam. You really got to hand it to him for that.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy who has left Islam, David, is Representative Corey Mills. Representative Corey Mills is let me get him here. He is a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, and he is a Republican, and he is from Florida, and he is, according to The Blaze, a rising star in Republican circles in Florida. And he was in the news recently. This past week, actually, a week ago today, I was hanging around here and got an email from the Daily Wire. And they were asking me about Representative Corey Mills because, as it turns out, he got married at the Dar al-Hijra Mosque in Northern Virginia in 2014 by Muhammad al-Hanoudi, who is now dead, who was a Muslim Brotherhood linked imam, multiple ties to the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. And he got married there. And he is now actually divorcing the wife that he married there, Rana Asadi. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this guy here on This Week in Jihad is because The Blaze actually contacted him and said, why were you married by a Muslim Brotherhood imam with ties to Hamas in a mosque that's got jihad terrorist ties as long as your arm? Because, Dar al-Hijra Mosque, Anwar al-Laki was there. I think some of the 9/11 hijackers were there. Very, very deeply connected mosque. And anyway,
only possible explanation would be I was in love with this chick and so I had to do this. That would be the only thing.
Sure, no problem. It happens every day. But the question is, they asked him, well, did you convert to Islam? And he said, no, of course not. I'm a fervent Christian.
The Muslims didn't know that, or you would not have been married there.
Exactly. That's why the Blaze actually asked me, is it likely that a guy like al-Hanoudi, who was a very serious imam tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, is he going to marry a Christian man to a Muslim woman?
0% chance. 0% chance. Just so everyone knows, it's allowed in the Quran for a Muslim man to marry a Christian or Jewish woman. It's not allowed for a Muslim woman to marry a Jewish or Christian man. They're okay with a Muslim man marrying a Jewish or Christian woman because they view it as taking over the reproductive capabilities of other groups. They do not do that in reverse. They don't say, oh, yeah, you take over the reproductive capabilities of the Muslim community by marrying our women and raising the kids as Christians or Jews or something like that. So, 0% chance any serious Muslim would have performed a marriage knowingly marrying a Christian man to a Muslim woman. So either this guy did convert to Islam and was a convert to Islam, or he lied and pretended he was because he wanted to marry the woman. But under no circumstances was he an open Christian marrying this woman in a mosque like that.
And so now he says, when the Blaze asked him, did you convert to Islam? He says, absolutely not. And this is what he said, word for word. You guys need to educate yourself because you come across very ignorant, bigotry, and it just makes you guys sound very, very, I guess, lack of American plurality. So he's playing the bigotry card. It's all about bigotry to ask him if he converted to Islam.
Yeah, in response to what? It's, dude, if this mosque performed a marriage of you to this Muslim woman, there are only two possibilities. Either you did convert to Islam, and so just be honest about it, or you lied to them and acted like you were. But under no circumstances does people's lack of respect for plurality factor into this discussion.
Now, do you think, David? Of course, neither of us were there. Unfortunately, I'm still getting over I didn't get invited to this guy's wedding, but nonetheless,
Yeah, they're the ones who really have a problem with plurality.
exactly. And do you think it's possible, though, that he doesn't even know that they did it? That they said, this is how you want to get married? Repeat these words after me in Arabic. And some of them
That's
were
another
la
possibility.
ilaha illallah, etc., etc. And so he ended up saying shahada without even realizing realizing what he was saying or the implications of it.
That's possible as well. They do like to dupe people into converting.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think it's very possible.
Yeah. So
Unfortunately,
you should just have to ask him. Just have to ask him. You say, "Hey, did you convert to Islam?" What? No. What? What? You don't be crazy. Did they have you recite some words before your marriage? Well, yeah, they did. Was those words kind of like La ilaha illallah Muhammadu Rasulullah? Yeah, it was just kind of like that. Okay. All right.
yeah.
Smart. You're smart, dude.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think you're right. I think that it's very possible, and that he might not even have realized what he did. But it's just an indication of how Dawa works here, and so this is something to be aware of, to watch out for. Another Dawa story, David, is the big story in the secular news this week, and that is that Trump's getting a free plane. And
Nice. Give me one too.
a free plane from Qatar. And he actually wrote on Truth Social, so the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift, free of charge, of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in a very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers. MAGA. Okay.
Is there anyone on the planet who believes that plane is free?
Yeah, is there anything that's free? I mean, it seems to me that...
Is that a free lunch? There's that old saying, Robert. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's always a cost associated. I'm not saying he's actually paying something or that he even agreed to do something, but Qatar is not giving things out of the kindness of their hearts, and we've already seen what they do when they shower Western universities with money. You can actually look into what happens. They shower a university with money, and all of a sudden, the papers that are being put out by the faculty and so on, they start swinging in a completely different direction from which they've been swinging, and you end up with all these students screaming in favor of Hamas all over the campus, and the university never cracks down on it and so on. So, yeah, that's what happens when they just generously, out of the goodness of their hearts, decide to shower Western authorities and so on with money.
Yes, and so, well, Trump should know, but I don't know. We'll see if he does or not. Meanwhile, speaking of infidels who likely don't know what they're dealing with, Pope Francis, the late Pope Francis, who is no longer with us, it turned out that in his will, he gave a Pope mobile to the children of Gaza.
Which children? Like,
he didn't specify. He didn't name any names.
So you can just go give this to like some Hamas kids or something?
Well, that's who's going to get it, because who else is going to get it? And once he gets
Yeah,
it, they have a nice little bulletproof vehicle there. Can be
must
put
be
to a lot
nice.
of uses in terms of transporting
I'm sure.
weapons.
I'm sure they'll come up with something.
But of course, the Pope, he was ready to do it for peace.
Pope mobiles are those are bomb proof.
Yeah, yeah. It's a nice thing to have. It's a shame that he didn't will any of them to us. I could use a Jihad Watch boatmobile. But maybe next time. Maybe Leo 14 will will us a Pope-mobile. But
Do it, Leo.
I won't be holding my breath. All right. Maybe I will. Okay. Let's see where we're going to go here, David. You want more jihad or more stupid infidels?
Tough call. I'll go with more jihad.
Okay, how about this? Story out of Hamas. And I thought this was interesting. Jerusalem Post reported that Hamas's Arrow unit pledged to carry out executions against 3 Gazans accused of collaborating with Israel by slitting their throats. And they said that they would broadcast this in public, in audio and video, and also said that at the same time, the limbs of 13 thieves and people who incite chaos and anarchy, that is fitna, that is trouble in the land, will be amputated and their legs will be shot. Where are they getting all this? They must be extremists, am I right? Twisting and hijacking the peaceful religion of Islam.
Yeah, especially when you quote Surah 5, verse 33, pretty much exactly as it stands.
Yes.
It lays out the penalty for causing corruption. Depending on the translation, they put it causing corruption or spreading mischief, things like that. And what's most disturbing about that passage? Well, the second most disturbing thing, the most disturbing thing about the passage is that, like, President Obama, everyone quoted the verse before it and completely massacred what it actually said in order to make Islam sound like a religion of peace. So it's 532, ladies and gentlemen, if you've heard that according to Islam, if anyone kills a man, it's as if he's killed all mankind. That's Surah 5, verse 32. And they take off the beginning, which says that this is a teaching of the children of Israel, which is actually a quote from Talmud. So it's actually funny that the Quran is quoting a passage from the Talmud as authoritative revelation for the children of Israel. But that's what it says about the children of Israel. Then the very next verse talks about Muslims and if you're with Muhammad and so on. And then it's like open massacre season. Talks about all these people you have to kill for the vague. So the most disturbing part is that people quoted the verse before it to show that Islam is a religion of peace, when the very next verse commands killing, dismembering, crucifying people, and so on. But the most disturbing thing about 533 is just about how vague this is. Making mischief in the land or causing corruption in the land. Well, what counts as corruption? This is used all across the Muslim world when you don't have anything else, anything specific to condemn people of. We've seen Christians sentenced over this in Iran. And if you don't have anything else, you just say, you're causing corruption in the land. How? By preaching another religion or following another religion. If a woman doesn't wear the hijab, you're spreading corruption in the land. You're causing mischief. And so you can use this for anything. Notice an Islamic government can use this for anything it disagrees with. Hey, we don't like what you're doing. So guess what? You're causing corruption in the land. And we get to chop off body parts or crucify you or execute you, whatever we pick.
And I got another story in that line out of Syria. Of course, we had Trump just this morning meeting with Ahmed al-Shara, the longtime leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which was a jihad group, was a jihad group in Syria, fought for 11 years to topple the Assad regime, finally succeeded in doing so. And now the guy has trimmed his beard, put on a suit, says he's renounced jihad, and everybody likes him. But meanwhile, in Syria this past week, a group of masked men in military uniform in the town of Rabla, which is inhabited mostly by Christians near Homs, They went into a store, assaulted a young man who was in the store, and sabotaged the store's contents. That is, they started breaking stuff and stole money. Before leaving the area, the gunman threatened to kill the town's residents, called the residents infidels, and insulted the Christian religion. They were angry with this store because it was selling alcoholic beverages. Now, David, I've always been taught that Sharia only applied to Muslims, not to non-Muslims. That's what Islamic apologists in the West have been saying for 20 years. So why would they be upset about a store selling alcohol in a Christian area?
No idea. It's almost as like we've heard completely wrong.
You mean we've been lied to?
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost like this is meant to dominate the entire world.
You know, that's incredible. You mean like maybe Muhammad said Islam must dominate and not be dominated?
Yeah. Something like that.
Incredible. Inconceivable. It's a religion of peace. All right. So much comedy this week, and we've got all these serious things going on, David. I'm sorry. Over in France. Let's go to France. Shall we? I know it's around here somewhere. What's that? Western Europe, you say? Okay. France. We have a church in Avignon. So probably this all happened because the people in Avignon were mad that the Pope is going to live in Rome again. They had a run for a while in the 1400s of popes living in, or 1300s of popes living in Avignon, and they were hoping maybe Leo would move back, and that's really what this is all about. But a Catholic priest in southern France was surrounded, insulted, and threatened by a mob of young men, shouting the Pope should move to Avignon. No, they were shouting Allahu Akbar. Last Saturday, after Mass, and what happened was, this is kind of interesting, David. He's at this church in Avignon, okay? So the priest celebrates Mass. And then a group of young men come up to him at the end of the Mass and say they want to convert to Christianity. And so he invites them into the church. Then, when they bring him into when he brings them into the church, they start to insult him. They start screaming Allahu Akbar, and they say they're going to burn the place down.
Weird.
Do you think they were lying to him when they told him that they wanted to convert to Christianity?
No, of course not. They just changed their minds really quickly for some reason.
And
Come on, Robert. Who lies? Who lies about this stuff? Come on.
Yeah, you're right. I should have known better. He said, they didn't insult me personally. It was provocation and abusive language directed against the Catholic religion. Now, surely Muslims wouldn't do that.
No.
Must be some mistake.
It has to be.
Yes. Meanwhile, this is Ginny T. You probably saw this. Ginny T is a Twitch streamer. I have no idea what a Twitch streamer is. You probably know what a Twitch streamer is, but me, I have no idea. Ginny T, though, she's one of them. And she went to France. She's from South Korea. And in France, she was doing her streaming. And this gentleman in the picture, you can see him, a man of North African origin, according to the report. He says, "What do you want, you dirty whore? Get out of here." Right on her Twitch stream. Now, that's France today. That's obviously a typical Frenchman. But why was he so angry with her? Do you know?
Have to say, Robert, it's exactly what I would expect in France right now.
Rumor has it that she had gone into a mosque. And of course, she doesn't know from mosques. She's from Korea. And so she was just going around and seeing what she could see in France. But this guy was apparently very angry because non-Muslims, except for purposes of dawah, are not allowed in mosques. You can't just stroll in like you could into a church or a synagogue. And so she aroused the ire of the local French people. This guy, no doubt, had just dropped off a
This dude,
baguette, bottle of wine at his house.
Old Pierre back there.
Yes.
Hey, Francois.
And so he was a bit annoyed with her for her lack of manners. You know, when you're in France, you have to act like the French do, and so you don't go into their mosques.
Nor do you take showers.
Hey, interesting story out of Afghanistan. Oh man, that's true though. I remember. Oh my goodness. Did you know this guy? There was this actually. His name was Pierre, if I recall correctly, and he was a friend of. He actually worked with my dad, and when I was about 8 years old, my dad brought him home. He was from France, and he stayed in our house for about 3 weeks. And the guy never bathed, and he just reeked all the time. And he was from France. It's a cultural thing, I suppose.
Hey, it was funny. This friend named Alex, who was grew up in France, and then he was an exchange student over here, and so he was staying in someone's house. And he said he didn't know much English. He only knew like a little bit of English when he first came here, and he said he wanted to know how to take a shower. So he said he says, so I went downstairs to the family and I said, "Excuse me, can I douche?" That's how they say it over there. "Can I douche?" And they're like, "Yeah, do whatever you want. Just don't go over to the bathroom and stuff." So he said it every day. He would come down and go, "Can I douche?" And they would look at him weird. He said eventually they explained to him what that means here.
Yes. Oh, it's wonderful to be multicultural. Anyway, we got out of Afghanistan several interesting stories. One of them being they have banned chess. And I tell you, I remembered when I saw this. Did you know Kathy Shadle? She was a writer out of Canada, and
Nope.
she didn't write about jihad or Islam for the most part. She wrote about politics, but sometimes she would write about jihadis, especially things like bombs blowing up at bomb making class in a mosque, stuff like that. And she had a recurring headline that was the joke in itself. They invented chess, you know. And it goes back to early 21st century Dawa that I remember seeing. I actually found an article with the headline,
Yeah,
"A
where they
thousand years
invented
ago,
everything.
yeah, Muslims gave Europe the game of chess."
Yeah, and coffee and algebra, and they invented
Yes.
camera phones and flight and all this other nonsense.
But in reality, the Afghans, under the Islamic law regime of the Taliban, they have banned chess. And they say that it's because it's a game of chance. People can bet on it. Now, I don't know. I've lived a sheltered life, David, but I have not heard of people betting on chess. But maybe those high stakes games. I don't know. Have you heard of this?
I mean, it could happen. It wouldn't. I've never heard of it, but it wouldn't. People bet on all kinds of things, so there might be some spot in Las Vegas where they're betting on the chess match, and people are jumping, or people are gathering around the screens screaming and so on. Ah, get him! Yeah, yeah! Pawn to night 4. Oh, in your face!
That's it. Yes. So it's Quran chapter 5 verse 90. "O you who believe, strong drink and games of chance and idols and divining arrows are only an abomination of Satan's handiwork. Leave it aside so that you may succeed." So that's actually the ban on alcohol as well as chess. And especially don't have a glass of wine and play chess. That would be even worse.
Afghanistan just keeps getting better and better, Robert.
Yes, in fact, I've got another story out of Afghanistan, and that is authorities have arrested 14 people in northern Afghanistan for playing musical instruments and singing. And in the capital of northern Takhar province, 14 individuals took advantage of the nighttime to gather in a residential home where they were playing musical instruments and singing songs, which caused a disturbance to the public. Now, was this just a matter of disturbance, like a matter of noise after 10 o'clock or something like that? Or was there something else going on here?
Must just be a noise thing.
It must just be because Islam is tolerant and pluralistic, and surely wouldn't be
Extremely.
against something like music.
Allah is the best of tolerance lovers.
Yes, but he hates music, and music is forbidden indeed. I
Does
got
not
some.
like music. Not a fan. Not a fan.
Yes. Um, Here it is. Muhammad says, "People among my nation will drink wine, calling it by another name. Maybe, I don't know, Red Bull? What will they call it? I don't know.
No, call
And,
it like champagne. I've seen
oh,
Muslims use
okay.
this as a proof. Look, he says they'll drink alcohol, but they will call it by a different name. He's like, and here's proof. Here are Muslims drinking champagne. They just call it champagne. This is the proof.
And musical instruments will be played for them and singing girls. Allah will cause the earth to swallow them up and will turn them into monkeys and pigs."
Nice.
And so if you're a Jewish musician, you're double pig or double ape. So Bob Dylan, watch out, man. All right. Oh, here's another interesting story out of Afghanistan. The Taliban found that 50 Ismaili Shia were forced to convert to Sunni Islam. Those who resisted were beaten or threatened with death, while their children were forced to attend Sunni madrasas. The local authorities also established several madrasas in areas predominantly populated by Ismailis. Now, the Ismaili Shia are one of those peaceful groups, small group within Islam, but often I've seen them invoked as the great hope for the future of Islam, that one day they will all be peaceful. They'll all be Ahmadis and Ismaili Shia and etc.
Uh,
What are the chances, David? What do you think?
well, you can actually just look at the numbers and see why that's doomed to failure, and you would think they would actually pick up on it. So, for anyone who doesn't know, you've got the Ismaili Shias. They tend to be more philosophical. They are way more likely to believe that Jesus was actually crucified according to the Quran. So most Muslims go to 4157, take that, interpret it that in the standard way, and then use that to reinterpret 355, which sounds, if an Arab reads 355, it says that sounds like Jesus died. Ismaili Shias, they go to 355, so this is clearly saying he died, and therefore they reinterpret 4157. But anyway, yeah, they're a minority. So they're a minority, not just of Muslims, but even of Shia Muslims. But I mean, think about this. You've got, when we raise objections to Islam, we get Ahmadis blasting us, Ismaili Shias blasting us, and so on. But these guys are all targets of Islam too. These guys are all targets of Islam too, because they're tiny fractions of the Muslim population. And when Islam comes to town, it's Sunni Islam. It's Sunni Islam, and they will go after you guys and wage jihad on you against hypocrites. Why? Because that's what the Quran says. Surah 9 verse 73 is a command not just to wage jihad against unbelievers, but also against hypocrites, and they regard all you guys as hypocrites. And that's what's amazing. It's like they're in the same boat with the rest of us. They're in the same boat with people like us, and they still defend it.
Yeah.
Knowing they're completely outnumbered, and that if Islam is successful in regaining its strength, that they're targets too, and they keep defending it. It's weird. It's insane. It's like a weird kind of Stockholm syndrome or something.
Yes, I find it utterly baffling because you've got in the case of the Ahmadiyya, of course, you've got the Muslim Brotherhood and groups that are of that same mindset, the Deobandis and so on, persecuting them ruthlessly, and then they align with the same people when they come to the United States. It just, it's utterly beyond reason. All right, Uganda. In Uganda, we had David Washume, who was stabbed to death as he made his way back home from 3 days of preaching in the Nalondo, Buwalasi, and Nabu Mali areas. Along with his fellow evangelist Fred Wepuhulu, Washume used Quran verses and biblical references to emphasize the divinity of Christ and the humanity of Muhammad. And so several Muslims became Christians, and then other Muslims began protesting, and they followed Wepuhulu, who survived. He says, as we were nearing our village, we met 3 masked men dressed in Muslim attire with knives, speaking the Arabic language. One shouted in our local language, "They are the ones! They are the ones! Kill! Kill them!" I realized that we were in the midst of militant Muslims. I wrestled with one of them who was holding me tightly, but I managed to escape. My friend, who was held by 2 men, could not. And so they killed the other preacher. And they were angry and said, "You infidel, you will meet Allah in judgment." And this is, of course, because of Islam's prohibition on proselytizing and preaching to Muslims, anything other than Islam. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, another jihad attack. Fulani jihadis crept into Kakaruk village of Gashish district, Barkin Ladi local government area, opened fire and killed people indiscriminately, killed 6 Christians. Actually, they killed 3 and then hacked 3 others to death. This Christian spokesman said, Bature Ilya Adazaram said, "It's our firm belief that the renewal of these Fulani militant attacks on not only Christians in our communities, but also in other communities of Plateau State and beyond, is among other reasons to drive away Christian victims of terror who are opposed to any form of land grabbing and the expansionist agenda of the Muslim militants." Now, the land grabbing is important because is that not what jihad is really all about? Pretty much wherever it happens?
That's the obsession. It's supposed to be, you're at any given moment, you're either taking land or you're preparing to take land. That's what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be endlessly expanding.
Yes. And so people who say, "Oh, we are interested in these things from a purely religious standpoint. We're not interested in Islam politically," that's just not a concept within Islam. Islam is inherently political and expansionist and wants to seize the land of the infidels. And so we have the jihad going on in Uganda. They try to keep the preachers from preaching. In Nigeria, killing Christians in an ambush and trying to expand into Christian areas. And then we also have Mozambique. And in Mozambique, did I put the wrong link? In Mozambique, David? It looks like I did.
It's possible.
It's possible. It's not only possible, it has happened. But I happen to have it right here. Since I've already said it's going to happen, let's go to Mozambique out of the Jihad Watch archives. It's around here somewhere. There it is. In Mozambique, there was a raid in Cabo Delgado. Cabo Delgado, David, is the northern province of Mozambique where there are oil fields that are considerably profitable. And there, the Islamic State mounted a jihad attack and killed 11 members of the Mozambican armed forces. And this is also a recurring theme we've seen all over Africa, that the national armed forces don't seem to be able to withstand attacks from jihad groups.
Nope.
And you gotta wonder, why is it that the jihadis appear to be better equipped, better trained, and better funded than the national armies? Why would this be?
Same thing as always. Either the national armies are in on it, or they're not a lot they can do because there's too much money being pumped into the jihad.
Yep. Another kind of
You have the people who actually go out and fight and wage jihad. But Muhammad also said that the person who funds the jihadi gets an equal reward to his. So there are tons, and this is why so many we've seen so many people get arrested for funding ISIS or funding this group or funding that group or raising money for them. You understand? Hey, I don't have to actually go out and fight if I can make money or raise money, and so they'll do that. But what that means is these terrorist groups always have endless trunks of cash flooding into the system from Muslims who don't actually want to fight, but who still want the reward.
And let me remind you, we earlier spoke about Mohammed Chipa, who was now doing 30 years of prison for funding the Islamic State. So when we ask who's paying for these guys in Mozambique, could well be Mohammed Chipa out of the contributions that he received in Northern Virginia. All right, story out of India, David, and this is a different kind of jihad. We had a 17-year-old Hindu girl, and she actually tried to kill herself after relentless blackmail and torture by a Muslim boy named Anas in Ghaziabad. And he edited photos with AI to make it look as if he had nude photos and compromising photos of this girl. And he blackmailed her on that basis to meet him in a hotel where he raped her. And then, after the girl thought, well, now my life is over and I don't know what I can do, and she tried to kill herself, and the girl is in the hospital, the family of the girl got a message from the father of the boy. And the message said, "We are Muslims. We will kill you and not even reveal your address. Your family members cannot do anything to us." So you have, in the first place, blackmail based on AI photos. And then you have a suicide attempt, and then after the suicide attempt comes a further threat from the family, from the father of the Muslim boy who had terrorized this Hindu girl, telling the Hindu family, "We will kill you and you'll never be able to find the bodies." What's going on here? Why would the father not say, "My son has done this terrible thing and I want to try to make amends"?
Doesn't think his son did anything terrible. Think, according to the Quran, Jews and Christians and polytheists are all the worst of creatures, and Hindus are pretty darn low on that scale, according to Islam. At least Jews and Christians have some reliable scripture from Allah, according to Islam. But it's just this is actually really, really disturbing because we've seen this move over and over again. We've seen, and it works. It works when Muslims are near other people who have an honor-shame culture, right? So we remember this from several years ago with the Sikh community in the UK, where a Muslim would seduce a Sikh girl and then video record it or take pictures of her or something like that, and then now you're basically our sex slave and our prostitute or anything else we want to make of you, because if you don't do exactly what we say, we will show these pictures or this video to your parents. And this would have been extremely, extremely, extremely shameful to her. So these girls would actually rather be their sex slaves or prostitutes or something like that than be exposed to their parents and so on. It became a big issue, and the Sikh community had to actually get together and say, we need to change our community. We need to change culturally so that girls actually feel safe coming forward to their parents. Because the alternative is that Muslims will keep using this. They'll keep doing this. They'll keep seducing a girl in some way and then turning her into a sex slave, versus the girl gets seduced and is able to come to her parents and say, hey, these guys are trying to blackmail me. Yes, I made a mistake and I slept with this guy and he's got pictures and now he says he's going to do this unless I do. So they actually had to come together and say, okay, young ladies, if you ever get seduced by some guy and you make a mistake or something like that, you can actually come forward. Do that. It's better than the alternative. But now it's seriously messed up. If they don't even have to successfully seduce a Hindu or Sikh or some other girl, and they can just like use AI to make it look like they did and threaten them with that, and now you have to do what we say. That's extremely messed up because we know what these guys will do, and we know they're obsessed, absolutely obsessed with turning all these girls into their sex slaves and so on. So this is bad.
Yes. There's no doubt about that. And David, I got an even worse story. And it's a good thing, man. We're coming up to the end of the hour and I almost forgot. It's a good thing I finally remembered to do this. This is a very big story out of Britain. Although in a certain sense it's a dodge the bullet story, but it's not really as much as we might wish that it were. That is Hamid Kaskun, who set fire to the Quran in Britain. And when he set fire to the Quran, he was outside the Turkish embassy. And he said he was doing it in solidarity with the late Salwan Momika, as well as to protest against the Erdogan regime. And so somebody came out, another Turk came out and started stabbing him. And that's why his hand is bandaged there. And Hamid Kaskun was put on trial. He was charged in Britain. Actually, I'm not sure his trial has come up yet, but he was just charged in Britain with harassing the religious institution of Islam. In Britain. This was not Baghdad. This was not Tehran. This was not Kabul. This was London. Harassing the religious institution of Islam. There was a widespread outcry, and the charge was changed. The British authorities now are charging him with hostility toward a religious group. That is, he's being mean to Muslims. But the thing that they did not say was, oh, it's not a crime to offend Islam in Britain. They removed it from this guy's charges, but they did not say, most conspicuously did not say, that it was not a crime in Britain to offend Islam. As a matter of fact, they left that out there. So what does this mean for Britain's future, as well as present?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a matter of time, and the numbers are going to keep growing and so on. So we can see which direction things are heading. But the real issue for me is always, always, always the hypocrisy. If you wanted to say, hey, you can't say anything that is offensive to another religious group or offensive towards a religion or something like that, fine, ban Islam, because Islam is like the all-time king of attacking everyone else's religion and their beliefs and so on, and saying horrible things about people. And so that's the issue. It's, oh, we take this very seriously, calling out people from another religious group or criticizing people from another religious group or criticizing their beliefs or insulting their book. We take this very seriously, and so we're ready to arrest people over it. Okay. Have you read the Quran? Have you read the Hadith? Have you heard what they're preaching in their sermons? I mean, you've got Ali Dawah on YouTube actually calling for ex-Muslims to be executed. Like, take your pick. Take your pick. If you want to say, hey, you're not allowed to criticize other people's religious beliefs or something like that, or say mean things about them or say mean things, fine. First thing banned off the shelf should be the Quran. Like, first thing. But you don't. And so this is why they're accused of having a two-tier justice system. It's exactly what they do. It's completely different rules for different groups. Mm-hmm. And if you're a Muslim, you can walk down the street saying, I can't wait until I want to sit here eating popcorn, watching all these people be executed. You're fine. You say anything about Islam, someone's got to go to jail.
That's the situation. And so we don't actually know what kind of punishment he's going to get for burning the Quran. But it's very clear, even with the adjusted charge, it's the first time somebody's being charged with blasphemy in Britain since the Muslim influx. There were blasphemy laws in Britain years before that were placed there in a very different time and context. And they were repealed in the interests of the freedom of speech and for a free society, but now they are back. All right.
Thanks, Islam.
Yes, indeed. Over in Indonesia, David, there was a group of Catholics in Bulukumba Regency of South Sulawesi, and they were on the waiting list for a permit to build a church for 45 years.
Nice.
45 years they have been waiting. So that's since 1980, if I recall correctly. They have been waiting. They've been on this list to get a permit to build a new church. And finally their number came up and they got rejected. So they were waiting 45 years to be considered for a permit. Once it came up, they didn't get it. And so this is because Muslim residents protested about the prospect of there being a Catholic church in the area. Now, they must be violating Islam, right? Because Islam is peaceful and tolerant.
Yeah, they don't. They're misunderstanders, Robert. They're misunderstanders. There's an epidemic of people misunderstanding Islam.
Yes, indeed.
It's like it's weird. See, the only people who actually understand Islam are like politicians and journalists and extremely liberal Muslims who never opened a Quran in their lives. Those are the ones who understand it. The people who actually study it seriously and try to impose it and so on, they're the ones, they have no clue what they're talking about.
Yes, but unfortunately, Islamic law does forbid the building of new churches. And
yep, that's
so. There you
well.
Go.
If you take it seriously.
If and only if.
Yeah. So that's the thing everyone is missing, Robert. It's the knowledgeable people, meaning the people who know absolutely nothing about the religion. They're the ones who understand that you pay no attention to these things. Mm-hmm. And the misunderstanders, they're the ones who think that, hey, what's in the Quran, what's in the Hadith, what's in what is laid down in Sharia. They think that those are serious claims, right? They think that those are all like real issues, that Allah means what he says, that Muhammad meant what he said, that the Islamic jurists mean what they say. Weird.
Inconceivable.
Weird people.
All right. We had in Italy, we had a kindergarten field trip. That was exciting. And they got to go to a mosque.
Fun.
And so now the Santa Maria della Vittoria Parish Nursery School in Ponte della Priula, they went to a mosque in Susagana. And in the mosque, the children knelt in the direction of Mecca while the imam taught them how to pray to Allah. Isn't that wonderful and multicultural?
That's extremely multicultural. But I'm guessing, Robert, once again, this only goes in one direction.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
In other words, there's no circumstances where all these groups are taking Muslim kids to pray in a Christian church, praying Christian prayers. If they were taking them there to do Muslim prayers, condemning Jews and Christians, then they'd be happy to do that. But there's no situation where they're going to be taking Muslim kids to pray Christian prayers and so on. Everything is one direction.
Yes, always. With the dialogue, with the outreach, everything. All right, one last story. We'll go to some super chats. And this is about Asaduddin Owaisi, who is a Pakistani Muslim leader. And, in the recent conflict between India and Pakistan, he's in India. He's an Indian Muslim leader. And he hailed the Indian Armed Forces for their action against Pakistan. And interesting thing he said was that the he said this. In February, Hafiz Abdurrauf delivered a speech in Pakistani-occupied Kashmir that we want to do jihad this year. And Owaisi then said, they want to murder and spread terror in the name of jihad. They want to murder and spread terror in the name of jihad. Where on earth could they have gotten that idea?
Got to be someone like you, an Islamophobe.
That must be it. It would have been nice if Owaisi had explained what is left of jihad if they don't want to, if you take out the murder and terror, but he did not. Nor did he explain all the verses in the Quran instructing Muslims to strike terror and to kill and so on. Anyway,
well, he can clarify that next time.
Yes. We'll be back next week, and we'll maybe Owaisi will have, I know you're watching out there, Owaisi, so sorry I said you were from Pakistan. I know that's a grave offense if you're from India. And meanwhile, looking forward to your clarification. And so we go to the super chats, and we got Abu Bakr al-Pafdadi. Condolences for the death of your colleague and friend David Horowitz. How important was David Horowitz in the counter-jihad movement? Thank you. And the fact is that David Horowitz, although he was not a counter-jihadi in the sense of going out and doing polemical battle and dealing with Muslim arguments and so on, he was absolutely essential to the counter-jihad movement. And I'll tell you why. It's a personal thing, actually, because right after 9/11, George W. Bush went to the mosque in Washington. He said, Islam is peace. And he hamstrung the ability of the U.S. government and of his own party, the Republican Party, to deal with this issue. He made it so that pretending that Islam was a religion of peace became the dominant mainstream approach. And I was one of the few people out there in those days who was saying, no, that's not true. Islam actually teaches violence and warfare and subjugation. And David Horowitz saw my work and supported it, and invited me to be an affiliate of the Horowitz Freedom Center, which I was and am still for over 20 years now. And so I'm very grateful to David Horowitz for his friendship, and above all for standing firm and being clear about this all-important issue when virtually nobody else was being honest about it.
And if people aren't familiar with David Horowitz, he's the guy from that famous clip, the one that went totally viral, where a woman was a Muslim woman in a hijab was complaining and so on, and then he listed a number of atrocities against, or I think he was quoting what Hamas wants to do to Israel, and he says for it or against it, and she goes for it.
That's right.
And that just, yep, everyone was using that for years. Hey, Robert.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've been to a number of these, but you know how they would have these big, fancy dinners with speakers and so on?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so they'd have these situations where they give someone an award, and it's they would have them in really, really nice places, and so it'd be expensive, like $1,000 a plate and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I got invited to one of these, and they're like, hey, you should come down to this thing, because I lived in the Bronx, and it was one of the guys organizing it was a fan of my YouTube stuff, and he says, hey, you should come on down here. And I looked at the site. It's like $1,000 plate for starters. And I was like, what? I can't afford that. And he said, no, we'll let you in. We'll let you in free. It's like, oh, then cool. I got to go. So anyway, but I had to get a tuxedo. So I had to wear a tuxedo. So I go and get a tuxedo, and I wear a tuxedo down to this thing. And so they sit me around they sit me at a table. I don't know anyone at the table, but they give me a glass of wine. I drink the glass of wine and stuff. And then I'm sitting there listening to the speaker. They were honoring Allen West, Colonel Allen West, and so on. And so, but David Horowitz was one of the speakers. They had various speakers. Anyway, I drink my glass of wine. And then I'm sitting there listening. All of a sudden, I see my glass of wine is full again. And I was like, what's going on here? So I was like, how'd that work? So I drank this glass of wine. I put it back down, and I'm sitting there listening, and sudden And all of a sudden the glass is full again. I was like, what the heck? What is going on? Right. And then I look around and I see these waiters with these wine. They're like sneaking in like ninjas. And like, as people are looking, they're just like gently like going in there with the bottle and filling up the glasses and stuff. I was like, but how long are they going to, I mean, how long are they going to do this? Right. Wine's going to be expensive. So I start like playing a game because I'm bored out of my mind for some speakers giving speeches and stuff like that. So I'm just downing glasses of wine and stuff and they keep filling it up. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'll be fine because we're about to eat. And so all of a sudden, it just hits me. All of a sudden, it just hits me, and I'm like, dude, oh no, I am messed up. That was strong wine, and I'm all like disoriented and stuff. Anyway, the next day, people start posting pictures from the event, and I was like photobombing people in the background with like thumbs up and stuff. So this like them with like it'd be like someone with Colonel Alan West in a picture, and I'm like behind them like this. And anyway, so that was
you know,
that was my memory. That was my memory of a David Horowitz event.
Yeah,
but it's super fun. I've shared that story multiple times because that was pretty funny.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, we got to find those pictures. If you have those pictures, we need to see David in a tux.
It was funny because I stole this from a show that I saw it on, but I still rode the subway. I still rode the 2 train from the Bronx all the way down to Manhattan. But I was walking up the street, and I'm in a full tux, and I would walk up, and people would go, "Whoa!" They'd look at me just on the train and stuff. I go, "What am I? A farmer?" And I kept saying that. So that was actually fun. It was fun walking around the Bronx in a tuxedo.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, let's go on here. We got Mark H. Collab between Robert and Ray Ibrahim when? You know, it's not very well known, but Raymond actually worked for Jihad Watch and wrote for Jihad Watch for many years. You can find many of his very old articles in the Jihad Watch archives. And so Raymond and I go way back.
Raymond's been YouTubing lately, Robert.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great.
Yeah, he actually I've got almost like 500,000 views where I just reviewed one of his videos on
the riding
the people
story.
of Al Zoot. Yeah, riding Muhammad all night long.
All right, Apu Baker Al Puff Daddy, Washington Street recons 2 Islamic holiday. Oh, Washington State recognizes 2 Islamic holidays. Thoughts? Well, you know, what's funny about Washington State doing that is that they do not recognize Easter or Christmas or any other holidays. And so suddenly they have these Muslim holidays. You got to wonder, why is Islam getting preference? What's going on here? Why not everybody? And if you start having everybody's holidays, you're going to end up with nothing but holidays in your calendar. So you have to make some choices. Clearly Washington has, and they've chosen Islam. There will be repercussions.
Smart.
Oh, it's very smart. All right, we have another from Apu Baker Al Puff Daddy. You're just trying to get me to say that, so one day I'll say it right. Should President Trump accept the Boeing plane, right, from Qatar? Why or why not? I think we covered that earlier. He should not accept it because nothing comes without strings, and Qatar is a Muslim Brotherhood supporting state that is in favor of jihad and Sharia. What do you think of President Trump inviting billions in investment from Qatar? Same thing. This is not a country we really should be getting deeply mixed up with. But what are you going to do? What do you think, David?
I'd be okay with it. I'd be okay with it just if you did it with like a big screw you. You know what I mean? Like,
How do you mean?
like Qatar says, hey, here we're giving you this free plane, no strings attached. I'd be like, oh, thank you for that. I'm giving it to Netanyahu or I'd do something like that. I pull some stunt like that. So I take it, but I'd let them know what I actually think of their attempt to manipulate me.
That would put an end to it for real quick. All right.
Yeah. And I would say, yeah, now please give billions to these universities. And every time you send a big check, we're insisting I'm using my right as president to make sure that school teaches an awesome course on anti-Semitism or something like that.
Yeah, and a course on the history of jihad, which is taught probably in no university anywhere.
Yep.
and it should be taught in every university everywhere. Arctic Based, what's your thoughts on President Trump's current Arabian peregrination? All right, look, there's one thing you can say in its favor, and that is he's trying to break out of the logjam of the foreign policy establishment and the status quo, which obviously has not kept the peace and has not worked in any way. He's trying to forge a new world order that is peaceful, but I'm not sure he has a full understanding of what jihad is all about, or the possibility that, I mean, certainly, look, Qatar, even Qatar and the other states might make an agreement based on pragmatic considerations. Just because you're a Muslim doesn't mean you're going to be acting in favor of jihad all the time. They might have other reasons to do business with Trump, but the jihad is going to be there. It's going to be in the background. It's going to be, even if it's only relegated to some people in the government or people in the population who think that there should be no agreement with the great Satan and so on, it's going to tell someday. And that has to be taken into account.
Yeah, and we saw the same thing from President Obama. We saw an attempt, hey, I'm going to go show you guys how to deal with these Muslim countries, and I'll show you can get along with them, and you can make them not want to terrorize you and so on. You just need to know how to do it. And with Obama, it was, hey, I'll go over there and praise their religion. And so he gave the famous Cairo speech and quoting the Quran and so on. With Trump, he's thinking, hey, these guys will respect strength and a serious negotiator and so on. And so, but the idea is the same. I can figure out how to work with these guys. Now, we don't think that that's actually going to work out. But yeah, the question is basically what are his intentions right now? Is it because part of it looks like he's trying to just get everyone on his side who's not aligned with Iran right now. That kind of looks like it, right? Let me get everyone on my side who's not Iran and let us completely isolate these guys and so on. And part of it also may be, hey, let's get these Abraham Accords all dialed up and get everyone. Let me get along with these guys so I can get them to get along with Israel, something like that. I don't know. So we don't know exactly what's going on in his mind. If he thinks these guys actually ultimately have good intentions at heart or something like that, or if he's playing chess with them and he's maneuvering some things into place. I don't know. It's time will tell. At the end of the day, I don't think agreements with these guys work out in the long run because they always have ulterior motives and so on. But I don't know. Who wants to try it.
Absolutely. All right, Abu Baker al-Puff Daddy, once again, from Sumant Yaratha. Robert, you've written many books about the jihad against Europe and heroes who fought. Can you please write a book for Western audiences about heroic battles Indians have fought? Well, actually, I would invite you to read my book, The History of Jihad.
That's in your book.
Yeah.
He covers it all. He covers it all.
Not just about the jihad against Europe. The History of Jihad contains extensive material about the jihad against India and elsewhere.
Africa. Mm-hmm.
So if you read The History of Jihad, you will find the jihad against India and much more. All right, we have, let's see. The last hour won't come till, this is knows too much. The last hour won't come till Mohammedans hide behind lines from Azut. A line will say, Ya Azut, there's a Muhammad behind me, come and ride him. But the ditty line will not say, for it was drawn by Muhammad.
That's true.
All right, there you go. What can you say about that?
Powerful.
Abu Bakr, yet again. Dr. Wood and Mr. Spencer, what are your opinions on President Trump's diplomatic overtures to Syria's president and jihadi veteran Ahmed Ashara? Well, same thing, really. Ahmed Ashara says he's not a jihadi anymore. Is that possible? Yeah, it actually is. It's possible. I ain't saying it's happening, but it's possible that somebody could, in his life trajectory, decide he's going to take a different path. Is this guy doing it, or is he practicing Muhammad's dictum, war is deceit? I would think it's much more likely that he's deceiving, but we shall see.
Yeah, I have to say, I trust that dude a lot less than I trust even like the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. The Crown Prince, he does seem like he wants to start modernizing and to try and get along with lots of other groups and so on. So the guy from Syria, I that guy would have to earn my trust because I don't trust that guy at all. But here again, I don't know what Trump and other leaders are thinking.
There is one thing.
I don't know. It may be something you want to try. Hey, let's get everyone together in the same room and everyone on the same page. And hey, we're all against Iran. And guys, we need to warm up to Israel. And hey, let's think about all the great deals we can make. Wouldn't this be a better way forward? So again, it's something you might want to try because that can work. I mean, it's possible that sort of thing can work. It's just, man, I really don't trust that guy, that Syrian guy.
He said to Ashura, you have to normalize with Israel. So we'll see. Will he do it? I doubt it, but he said to. And another thing was Ashura, there were recently the massacres of the Alawites in Syria. And he said, yeah, some of it was our guys. We will prosecute everybody involved. So we'll see if he does that, which I actually doubt. But he claims he was not behind it. We'll see. Okay, Songs of Relief says, if only Robert had an infallible memory like Ibn Masud, yes. But we all know, of course, the collectors of the Hadiths, they remembered everything with absolute precision and passed it on for 200 years to people who also remembered everything with absolute precision, so that all the stories are 100% reliable today. Isn't that right, David?
That is indeed true. How else do we have so much powerful information about Muhammad getting banged by the men of Al-Zut?
Well, see, that's an interesting question, because a lot of people, they say, why would anybody make up a story like that? Nobody has to make it up. Maybe it really did happen, but it didn't happen to Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam. There are a lot of stories floating around about various warlords, various false prophets, various leaders of various kinds. And when the Muhammad myth begins to be constructed, they throw it all in there based on what they want, their own proclivities. And so they want to perpetuate the approval of this kind of behavior. They throw that in as well.
Yeah, someone is like, hey, we're inventing this new prophet. We can say anything we want about. Hey, but I remember this story about this dude getting banged all night long by the men of Al-Zut. Let's make that work for us.
Yeah, because they want that for themselves. They want to canonize this behavior. They like that sort of thing.
These dudes wanted to get banged by the men of Al-Zut.
Yeah, this was not a group of people.
They wanted to normalize getting gang banged by the men of Al-Zut.
Yes, they were not moral paragons. These guys, they wanted to engage in homosexual activity. Why do you think it's so prevalent in Afghanistan today and elsewhere? Because it has this tacit approval from stories like this. And it has it because people who engaged in that behavior centuries ago wanted to get the divine stamp of approval onto it. So nobody's going to come around and say, hey, we're really going to have to stone you to death now.
I can't control what you believe, Robert.
We're going to have to do another debate on it. All right. Abu Baker Al-Pafdadi, thank you, sir. Dr. Wood and Mr. Spencer, why do some Jewish American students support Hamas protesters? Also, do you think these protests are organic or highly organized? Why do they support them? Because their God is the left. They are leftists more than they're Jews. And so they want to go along with what the left wants. Maybe they're ashamed of being Jews. Maybe they want to fit in. They want to lose the stigma. So they join in. Peer pressure, other considerations, other priorities, and so on. Also, are they organic? Not in the slightest. Remember, there were many colleges where everybody had the same tents when they were out living in tents for Hamas. They didn't all just spontaneously go by the same tent. The tents were supplied by as yet unknown people.
I have to say, though, at the end of the day, it is easy, especially for like a college student, to fall for this stuff. I mean, all you have to do is say, "Yeah, we're for Hamas and we're against Israel," and you're like showered with praise, and you're part of these. You're part of this big group that's fighting for justice and so on. Or you say, you know what, I'm against terrorists, and I have to side with Israel. Then you're like blasted and insulted and called a genocidal maniac and so on. So it's there's actually tons of people who would fall for that rather quickly, and it's understandable. Like most people want to be liked and praised, and if you really want to be liked or praised on a college campus, just start praising Hamas.
Yep. D. Boudreau. Hi, Robert. Did you see the Middle East Forum's report on Qatar? $40 billion investment into the U.S., and people cry about APAC. Yeah, well, Qatar, like David was talking about earlier, they've spent millions and millions of dollars in American universities. And so when you see, that's another thing about these protests not being organic, that the professors are brainwashing the students with this propaganda, and they're paid out of Qatar. So it all comes back to one thing. Okay, Apu Baker, I'll Puff Daddy says, Mr. Spencer, are you optimistic the new Pope Leo the 14th will stand up to Islamic Jihad like his namesake, the OG Pope Leo the Great, stood up to Attila the Hun? That was in like the year 451, if I recall correctly, or 452. In any case, that was a long time ago, and it's been a while since a pope stood up to violent forces. I don't have any hope that he will, but we'll see. What do you think, David? Is the Pope going to face down the jihadis?
I have no idea. I think the next year or two will.
Yeah,
let
nobody
us know.
really knows this guy. He's really kind of a dark horse, a surprise entity. People don't know. He doesn't have a big public backstory. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. Knows too much. Easy steps to take back Constantinople. 1. Equip Quran vests and rename yourself the Quran. 2. Equip turkey basters. 3. Ride an otter to battle, humiliating the Ottomans. Okay, good luck with that.
This is all good advice.
Yes, Constantinople will be ours. All I want is a little villa in Chesme on the water. Apu Baker, I'll Puff Daddy. Dr. Wood and Mr. Spencer, what would you advise the Trump administration about how to approach diplomatic relations with Turkey? Is Turkey an ally or a foe? Turkey's a foe. Turkey
Terrible
should
foe.
not be in NATO. Turkey should be threatened with expulsion from NATO if it doesn't cut out occupying areas of Syria, spreading jihad, coddling ISIS, all these things, making these revanchist threats against Greece and other areas, Armenia, that were part of the Ottoman Empire, and so on.
Yeah, Turkey's garbage.
Flipper says, RS, your thoughts on Muhammad and the 1.8 miracle. What's the 1.8 miracle? That's something you know.
Yeah, so that's Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson used that argument in a debate. So it was Sneeko. Sneeko was hosting the debate between Andrew Wilson and Muslim Lantern, and one of their debate topics was Muhammad's relationship with Aisha. And Muslim Lantern's position is, yes, Muhammad had sex with her when she was 9, but he didn't harm her because it's harming her that is forbidden in Islam. So Andrew Wilson pointed out that he'd done the research and done the math, and he'd done the research and found that the average length of the vaginal canal of a 9-year-old girl is 2 inches. So her vaginal canal is only 2 inches at that age. And therefore, if Muhammad didn't harm her at all when he had sex with her, must have been shorter than 2 inches. And so let's say 1.8 inches. But it was hilarious because the entire time he's using visual aids, and he's like, so this is 1.8 inches right here, and so you can imagine, and he's like doing all these visual demonstrations.
Oh my goodness,
it was classic.
Well, I don't know what to think. What do you want me to say? I find that I don't even know what to say about it.
It's the proof. It's the proof of Islam.
Diversity and Unity says, to correct the record, chess is an Indian invention. Yeah, I'm sorry if I gave you the impression that Muslims actually invented chess. My intention was only to say that Muslims claim to have invented chess, which is a very different thing. And a lot of useful idiot non-Muslims say that Muslims invented chess. Bo Rudder says, betting does not make chess a game of chance. Look, tell the Taliban. Fly to Kabul tonight. Tell the Taliban. Let me know how it goes. Some Bible Summary says, greetings from Some Bible Quran. Best show ever. Thank you. Kudos on teaming with Raymond Ibrahim. Oh, you meant David. Keep up the good work. Very good. I thought you meant this show. All right. Bo Rudder. Next, Afghanistan will ban dancing boys. Yeah, that's going to happen. They read the Azut Hadith as well. Okay, M.O., how to send you a screenshot of a flyer Muslims in Canada were giving about gaining peace through Islam and life purpose. By the way, got 2 of your books. Thank you. Only 29 to go. Meanwhile, you can email me at director@jihadwatch.org. And meanwhile, we have Gullible Idiot says, but don't you realize Islam is a religion of peace? The Quran says to love and be peaceful to everyone, especially disbelievers. Yes.
Yeah, Surah, trust me, bro.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, every time you ask a Muslim, I've asked many Muslims, point out to me where it actually says that when they say that stuff. I'm still waiting. John Davis says, are conservative Catholics who are silent about this, e.g. Catholic Answers, EWTN, etc., ignorant, or is it a question who's buttering their bread? It's not. It's not about buttering their bread, and they're not ignorant. I don't know if I should reveal who I was talking to, but many, many years ago, 20 years ago or more probably, I had a meeting with a high-level executive at a very prominent Catholic entity who told me that they were not going to have anything to do with me or my books. We actually had a meeting so he could tell me this. And it was because he said they had all sorts of offices in other countries, in Muslim countries, and they didn't want to end up getting them surrounded and attacked by jihadis. So they were going to keep quiet about jihad. And so that, I think, is something that is a consideration that is not limited just to Catholic groups, but many groups around the world keep quiet about this because they're afraid of getting their own interests attacked. All right. Diversity and Unity says Allah plus communism equals Islam. I don't know. What do you think, David? I'm going to think about that for a while.
Yeah, it doesn't sound much like communism.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the left loves Islam because Islam inculcates blind obedience to the ruler, but it's not quite the same thing. Anyway, Some Bible Summary says, I found Burkina Faso on map. Keep truthing. Well, I'm glad you found it. It's where Upper Volta used to be. And in any case, it's still there. Arctic Based. Israel just celebrated its 77th. Happy birthday to Jew.
That's true.
Shalom. Yep. Happy birthday, Israel. And keeps fighting against the jihad. Purely Grounded sends a heart. Thank you, Purely. May I call you Purely, or is it Ms. Grounded? Flipper says, what do you think of Uyghurs? Uyghurs are doing terrorism all over the globe. Did terror attacks all over China, also in Thailand, Syria, and Afghanistan. Well, insofar as Uyghurs are Muslims, there are going to be some jihadis among them, just as there are jihadis among Muslims of all groups. So, no surprise there. And another one from Flippa. Uyghurs tend to hold anti-Semitic views, too. Well, insofar as there are Muslims, there are going to be some who are anti-Semitic because the Quran is deeply anti-Semitic. Drew Pavlu commented it. CCP is brutal, but I can understand their handling of the Uyghurs. Broken clock. I'm not in favor of what the CCP does. I don't think that we need to become violent and oppressive to fight an ideology that is violent and oppressive. All right. Flipper says many Jews support Uyghurs. Chickens for KFC, basically. We could do a whole show about chickens for KFC. They're just everywhere. All right. Mir Iam says, Robert, I love you. Thank you, Miriam. I love you too. Fatwad says, the man who burned the Quran in Manchester is also being charged for disorderly behavior. It's not orderly to burn a Quran. All right. Liz says, Robert, will Trump let in thousands of Muslim refugees? I doubt that. He's been pretty insistent about not letting in indiscriminate numbers of immigrants, undocumented and so on. So I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. Fox McCloud says, History of Jihad from Muhammad to ISIS. Great read. Thank you. And remember, there is Jihad against India in it. And Diversity and Unity says, shouldn't India name one of their missiles Azut?
That's what I'd do.
And we have
now the problem with that is if they're firing them at Pakistan, Pakistan could do the same thing.
Yeah,
because the people group, the Jat, they're in Pakistan and India, and so I have to say, Robert, I don't know if I told you, but it's actually funny. Raymond, Ibrahim, and I both had the same experience after posting our videos. We got lots of comments from Indians going, "That is right. That's exactly what we did to him." Like they were affirming, "You're darn right we did that to him." actually pretty funny.
All right. Cynthia Ridgely, thank you. And let's see what we got here. LG says, I would like to set up a debate between you and Scott Horton. I do not know who Scott Horton is. Do you know who Scott Horton is, David?
No, but I know Tim Hortons. It's this place that all Canadians. It's this place that all Canadians gather to drink gallons of maple syrup.
Well, you want me to debate a donut, eh? Okay. This show, Some Bible Summary says, this show is best show ever. Thank you. I thought it was the other show, the David with Raymond. Why Jihad history not taught in any of the Christian schools I went to? Shame. Yeah, they should be teaching it. That's absolutely true. Every church, every Christian school should have teaching about Islam and Jihad, because I guarantee you one thing. Every mosque, in the West at least, has teachings about Christianity and how to proselytize Christians. And the Christians are not preparing their people to deal with that. And that is a great
isn't that amazing? I mean, you've got Muslims who are trained all their lives to attack Christianity. It's built into the religion. Mm-hmm. And yet, if you were actually to say, hey, we want to train young Christians to respond, you'd be viewed even by Christians as some sort of Islamophobe or something like that, for saying, hey, we need to prepare Christians so that they're ready for this. No, you're racist, you're a bigot.
That's right. That is exactly the reaction you would get. Try it, folks. If you're watching this and you go to church, go to your church this Sunday. Ask the people in charge if you can lead a group to deal with how to withstand dawah and how to preach to Muslims, and watch the reaction. All right, Mother Queen says, hi, Mr. RS, can your book shipped to Indonesia? Oh, hi, David. Yeah, I don't know. Amazon has my books, and I believe they would. I can't imagine that they wouldn't ship to Indonesia. I have personally sent copies of my books to people who asked me in Nigeria and in Pakistan and so on.
I've done the same thing with your books.
There you go. So I don't think you have any trouble getting them.
Yeah, so I was able to go to Amazon in the U.S. and fill out the address. It costs more than it does to ship to the U.S. and so on. So there's extra fees and stuff. But I would guess that if you can get it to Nigeria, then they probably send it to Indonesia without a problem.
Indeed. And then we have LG says, debate and/or Dave Smith. What is that? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
I don't know what the and/or means. Yeah.
Debate and/or Dave Smith. Okay, well, on that note, that's it for Jihad for this week. God willing, we will be back next week, should there be any Jihad, but maybe there won't be. Whether there is or isn't, you know the story. Pray, hope, and don't worry.